Okay, so we've talked a lot about how cult followings work and basically said that, like, people will come to these movies that these kind of auteurs, I don't know if we want to call them that, make, such as M. Night Shyamalan. Basically, they'll come to whatever they make, like, regardless of if it does well with critics, if it's supposed to be terrible, whatever. But, like, what do you think it would take for a director to lose their cult following? Like, would all their movies have to be bad? Would, like, do you get what I mean? Like, what does it take, or is it even possible for someone, once you've reached a certain level, to lose their cult following? Or is it basically guaranteed for the rest of your life that you will have an audience if you reach this kind of cult status as a director?
So I think it's actually like not to do with the quality of their content.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think no matter what, some directors or some storytellers, artists are always going to have people follow them. It's not going to be like 5 flops that people then start to not follow their movies. Like, I think they're still going to be interested. But I think it's actually their reputation. Like, if, say, something leaks or some report, like I think in the Me Too movement, a lot of people have come out to say that certain people have done bad things, and so that probably then quickly decreases someone's following because they're just not trustworthy anymore. They're not credible, like, if they can do something that's like not nice and not great. So I think that's probably the biggest reason why a cult following would decrease in size. Like, I'm just thinking about like comedians who some people have said they've done not great things to women. So I think those comedians, definitely their followings have decreased really quickly, massively. But that being said, I think some comedians will still have those followings. Like, some people, despite the comedian's reputation being like marked or something like that, there are still people who are going to show up to those shows and who are going to support those artists that they care about because something about their message might just resonate.
Interesting. So reputation in a way matters more than like the actual work that they're producing.
Because I think people follow celebrities or follow artists because they like that person.
Mm-hmm.
There is something like a very genuine connection there. Like, sometimes, like, if I remember like some YouTubers, I think there was something about like what is it? I don't remember who it is, but they did something really strange with their fans, like literally like went into the back room with one of the, like, it was like a guy, and then like the fan was like female, and I think that came out, that leaked on YouTube, and immediately that person's been shamed basically on YouTube, and I think a lot of people started unsubscribing. And I think it's just because people like YouTubers, there's this like genuine connection that they feel with influencers, and I think artists, they have this kind of genuine connection, even though it's so much further away. They do feel like, I know this person, I understand the message that they're trying to portray, but if that message feels fake and inauthentic, once some kind of like news is released, then I think that trust is basically broken.
Mm-hmm. Especially with nowadays, like, anyone who is in the public eye in any way, who they are as a person is a factor along with the work they do. Like, the work they do, the movies that they're in or that they make or whatever, only matters so much because now we associate the work that someone does along with like who they are as a person. I think they're more connected than they ever have been.
Yeah, I think people just really value authenticity these days. Mm-hmm. But I think it's also because we have access to a lot more of people's lives. Like, people are sharing everything on social media, and sometimes that's liberating, but for other people, like celebrities, like sometimes some things like they do want to keep private. So there's like, in a way, we have more access to their lives, and we might see things that we don't agree with, like not things as drastic as like stuff that happened during like in the Me Too movement, but I just kind of feel like it means that people can kind of be more picky with who they follow, because you would just have so much more access to like the lives that people lead.
Mm-hmm. What about, so you think that if someone made like consistently bad movies, let's say M. Night Shyamalan, like, you know, a lot of his movies haven't been great, but at least some of them have done somewhat okay with critics, like Split, despite my feelings about it, was still generally liked, I would say. But let's say that like all of his last movies within the last 10 years were all consistently bad. Like, do you think he would still have a cult following? Like, would people stick around? Or would they just be waiting, biding their time until he had a movie out that was good?
But remember how we talked about Kubrick and how he hasn't produced, like, obviously he hasn't produced any other films, but he still has a cult following that continues to increase because people discover his films.
Right,
so I
true.
wonder if that's actually the case with M. Night Shyamalan, where some people have stuck with him since the very beginning, but some people also discover his works nowadays and can actually go through the entire catalog. And maybe people who start following now might be more forgiving. I'm not sure. I think that's actually kind of like an interesting question, because there's no way to really track that. I guess there might be, like, in terms of like sentiment analysis or something like that.
Yeah, well, because we've talked about going back and watching Christopher Nolan's old movies. Like, I've seen Memento, but I haven't seen his first one, Following. I haven't seen The Prestige. So we've talked about going back and watching his back catalog of movies that we haven't seen while we're waiting for his next one. Because, you know, who knows when that's going to come out.
How has that affected kind of your idea of like what Nolan films are like, or like who Nolan is as a person? Because I bet like his films have changed so much, not just in terms of budget, like in terms of quality, but also just kind of like the types of movies I think he's like interested in making is slightly different to like the very, very early one. So how has that fleshed out your understanding, or like do you like him even more now that you're like going into the back catalog?
Yeah, I think that it makes me like kind of see his trajectory and appreciate the fact that, in my opinion, he is still improving as a filmmaker, and he is still like building off of what he's done in the past. Like, some people might think that his first films were the best, or his middle films, like his Batman films, were the best, but I think that like with each project he's kind of like expanding and improving and learning as a filmmaker, which makes me even more excited for his future projects. But I think you probably have a different opinion, because I feel like I liked Tenet more than most people.
Well, I also haven't seen every single Nolan film, so I think it's really hard to know. I did surprisingly really like The Prestige. In fact, I think, I don't know if this is actually true, but like just for today, I kind of feel like I like The Prestige even more than like Inception, and I thought Inception was a perfect film. So that's like actually wild. I think also I really like magic. Like I like the idea of performance and magic, and so it was just like a really cool film. It just ticked all the boxes for what I liked in a film. I don't know if it necessarily changed my understanding of like Nolan and like what kind of films he excels at, or like what he's doing, but I think it's really great to hear like from you, who has seen like a lot more Nolan films, that he's constantly improving and he's constantly like developing. And I think there are definitely some directors out there who aren't doing that. They're just kind of like staying stagnant, and potentially I think like a lot of different like businesses, or like, I don't know, performers or athletes even, you do end up somehow like plateauing at a certain point, because like you just reach that limit and it's good to hear that Nolan, it hasn't reached his limit yet.
I feel like Tenet was his limit. I don't know how you can expand after that. I don't know. But I kind of feel like if I watch The Prestige and I love it, if I feel like it's my favorite, I would kind of be disappointed, because to me that would feel like the best is over, you know, and from there it's gone downhill, and I don't want to feel like that. I want to feel like it's a constant like ramping up, and I want to feel like that of all of my favorite like celebrities, right? Like I love Taylor Swift, and I want to think that she's still on a roller coaster that's going up. I don't want to feel like the best days were behind her and she's just trying to like continue that fame in the way that I kind of feel like M. Night Shyamalan is, how he's always trying to reach after his success that he achieved with The Sixth Sense. I think him and his funders and his producing partners are probably always trying to reach after that first success. And it's kind of sad, you know, to always be like reaching for something that happened in the past that you can't quite attain again.
I wonder if I guess it's like more of the industry, but I don't actually think that success is like you go straight up and then you like basically fall afterwards, like you crash.
That's like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah. So I wonder if actually M. Night Shyamalan has gotten to that peak. Like maybe we don't know. Like we can't see into the future. Maybe this is just like a certain level of plateauing, and then there's like another peak, right? Like I think that might be possible, and I think that's what everyone is hoping for. Everyone who follows him, at least.